If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, Fitness Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth, and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram at @fitnessmama, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. Today is perfect for you if you've got a toddler or a soon-to-be toddler. We're discussing toddler behaviour, specifically challenging behaviours. So we're discussing all those meltdowns that toddlers are known for. I'm speaking with Courtney, who's a holistic parenting consultant, sleep and behavioural specialist, and she's also got a podcast herself. We're discussing causes of challenging behaviour. Courtney takes us through some amazing strategies to help prevent this behaviour, so preemptive strategies. And then she also talks us through some strategies for if we're in the moment. Let's say our toddler is having a meltdown at the local swimming pool. What do we do? So I trust it's going to be a great episode, and I got a lot out of this too. And my children are now older. My youngest is 5. So I think any parent of young children will get a lot out of this episode. So I trust you're going to love it. Before we do dive into this episode with Courtney, just wanted to invite you to join us inside Fitness Mama, our pregnancy and postnatal workout program. If reclaiming your pelvic floor, core and strength safely is important to you, if looking after your body carefully and confidently during and after pregnancy is important to you, then Fitness Mama could be just what you need. Perhaps you found you're not exercising as much as you'd like to during pregnancy and after birth. Perhaps you're busy, or you've lost the motivation, or you're not sure how to be best looking after your body. Perhaps you've got pelvic girdle pain and abdominal muscle separation, and you're not sure what exercises you should be doing. Or you'd like to get back into running after birth and you want the best Kickstarter possible. Then Fitness Mama is for you, whether or not you're pregnant or you're 2 years postpartum or longer. Join us for these convenient, short, easy workouts that you can do from the comfort of your home whilst your bubba sleeps, your toddler runs around, or at the end of a long day at work. Head to fitnessmama.com. There's a free 7-day trial, so you got nothing to lose, everything to gain, and the link is in the show notes. Right, let's get into this episode. Courtney, thank you so much for joining me today on the Fitness Mama podcast. It's great to chat all things toddler behaviour, toddler, and I say this in air quotation marks, naughtiness. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited.
Before we dive into this episode, can you give us a quick, brief rundown who you are, what you do for those who don't know?
Yeah, so I am Courtney Nightingale. I own the Parenting Edit, and I do holistic parenting and sleep consulting, a little bit of Circle of Security parenting facilitation on the side, and I've also got 2 other, little projects on the go with other business partners at the moment as well. I am a mum to 2 little rat bags, and I've been a teacher for, over 13 years now. And most of my experience has been in special education, so understanding children's behavioural needs and building relationship and connection has always been like a very strong passion of mine, and I'm now loving bringing in all of this kind of knowledge to share with parents, because we're not born, into parenthood knowing everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes me feel like you've got a lot going on, Courtney.
Yeah, I know. I got to slow it down.
I feel tired listening to you.
Yeah, too many hats. So, yep. It's crazy times, but it's good. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I connected with you is you did a post, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was about how we need to stop calling our kids naughty. And there was a lot of conversation and comments, and I just thought this is such a great topic because I know we're probably opening up a can of worms, but I think it's also really great to chat about. So let's talk through it.
Yes. So the post that I shared it was actually a little bit clickbaity. I put in there, I was like, kids aren't naughty, full freaking stop. And then I kind of went into my little high horsey stance on the whole thing. But it was good. It was great. It was good conversations.
Well, it's funny because I think a certain generation, my mum's pretty good, but she will sometimes say, I won't name which of my children she's talking about, but she's like, so-and-so is being naughty. And I just, that word always grates on me. So let's dissect that. Why don't you like the term naughty?
Yeah, I think we've come a really long way in the last, 60 years of understanding child development and child behaviour. And it is really tricky for generations before us who were always doing the best with what they knew, right? But now we know more, we know better, and we can actually do better. So when we're labeling our children anything, and this kind of even goes for things like good girl and that's being bad and, you're naughty and, it labels the child as something rather than looking actually deeper behind it. So the behavior is like the symptom of something else that is actually going on. So when we're just looking at behavior and we're focused on they're being naughty, they're giving me a hard time, they just need some manners, it's all those really common things that we do hear a lot. And as a teacher as well, I still hear, they're just a naughty boy. And it's like, well, actually, no, you have to step back from this child and go, they are doing the best with what they've got available to them. And if they've not got a home life that is secure and loving and warm and safe, how do you think they're going to cope with the rest of life,
And what about those kids that do have a warm, loving, secure life, which I'm sure is the majority, I'm sure 100% of women listening today will actually be providing the best they've got.
Of course.
So I guess this is coming straight into the crunch. What causes challenging behaviour? Or is that even the right term to use? What term do you like to use?
Yeah, I mean, it is challenging. It's challenging for the child to be able to navigate through, and it's challenging for us as parents to navigate through. So, yeah, it is challenging behavior. Misbehavior, it's the stuff that we don't want to be seeing our kids doing often. So, ultimately, I think it's just about seeing behind the behavior. Okay, so if my child is hitting, kicking, biting, why is that happening? What is happening before that behavior? So, you kind of got to get a little bit curious and not react to the behavior itself, but rather respond a lot of these behaviors come from frustration. So what our children need from us is a validation of that emotion. So, oh my God, you're feeling frustrated. That's a really tricky thing that you're trying to do, insert whatever activity is going down and how it's all falling apart. So you're validating for them their experience that they're having. Hey, but we don't hit, but we use our gentle hands. But if this happens again in future, what could we do? So you've got to help with that problem solving kind of aspect and giving them strategies and tools for alternative behaviors, knowing very, very well that it's going to take 1,000,001 exposures and practices and repetition before they probably get it. And it's just having that grace and that understanding for where they are right now in their life. Very impulsive, that front, the front of the brain it's not developed yet. So from a brain science perspective, our children can't access their higher order thinking. They are still down in their limbic brain, which is that fight, fight, freeze, very impulsive, do first, think later, very emotional. Yes, all those kinds of things. that we actually feel we still experience ourselves as adults, and I think sometimes our expectations of our children are actually a lot higher than they are of ourselves sometimes too.
Oh, absolutely. And birth order too. I was reflecting a few weeks ago when my third baby was born, my oldest was only 4 and I expected so much from her. And now my youngest is 5. She gets away with murder compared to what my oldest would have. So, yeah, it's interesting,
Isn't it? Yeah, and the progression, I think, like we grow as parents through our parenting journey, and the things that we freaked out about with our first just don't become the issues. We just don't see them or feel them the same way because we've kind of had that experience now with 1, 2, 3, maybe more children, and you go, oh, you don't sweat the small stuff the same way, I don't think.
So we're talking about, I guess we're really focusing in on toddler behaviour here, but what you were just saying with how toddlers, they do find it hard to regulate their emotions and all that side of thing. At what age, I know it's a progression and you probably can't put an age to it, but how long do we expect this to happen for?
Usually by the time you're getting into school, things should be simmering down a little bit. Yeah. So you're really in the kind of the thick of it, that independence, that autonomy that they're trying on, or like pushing those limits, seeing how far they can go to see whether their adult, their safe person has actually got them. And those kinds of behaviours are very much like the 18-month and onwards, really. And usually by the time you're getting into school, things can really calm down. Yeah.
Okay.
All really comes down to your parenting, though, as well.
So a lot of what you talked about, now can we discuss the impact of hunger and fatigue and other factors? Like what can be going on that will exacerbate these issues that parents need to be aware of?
Yes, 100%. So there's actually an awesome parenting strategy called HALT, and it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Okay. So when you're kind of experiencing these challenging behaviors, oftentimes there's a bit of a pattern to them. Like you can see after a few kind of things going down, you're like, oh, okay, this is actually an issue for us. We're going to have to troubleshoot around that to minimize those meltdowns and tantrums and all the rest of it. But HALT is a really great tool just to come back to and go, okay, are they hungry? Have I fed them? like because sometimes your day just gets away on you. And I know for my son, he's 3.5. He's slightly coming out of it now, but previously it was like if we weren't on top of his eating and he got hangry, it was like World War III, right? So you have to be maybe more proactive with your snacks, meal times, making sure that, this is probably your zone as well, healthy eating, and making sure you've got like sources of protein through their breakfast, lunch and dinner, and, complex carbs and healthy fats, really balancing out what you're providing for your child, because unfortunately the packeted stuff that we get from the supermarket, which is fantastic for on the go and also keeping busy hands happy and for distractions and all those kinds of things, they're not nourishing enough foods for our children's bodies. And also then you get into the whole, oh my gosh, we could go everywhere with this, but you could go into the whole world of like intolerances and allergies and things like that. And if the microbiome of the child's body is not working, you have got really big impacts on mood and behaviour.
And I notice this like with my older children too. If they don't have a good breakfast, they're so grumpy.
Yeah.
So grumpy.
Yeah.
And I always, like on the weekends, they like to cook themselves pancakes, and I always cringe because I know like there's different pancakes available out there, but just the good old standard ones that the kids find it easy to make with flour, milk, eggs. And then if I have them, I know they're going to be grumpy. And then, they get to that stage where they're wanting to assert their independence. So, it's it doesn't necessarily get easier. It changes, doesn't it?
It definitely, like the stages, like people are always like, oh, just wait until you get to or, this is just a part and you'll get through it. It's like, but it's kind of just a revolution of parenting. You move through one phase and those challenges are behind you, and then you've got a new set, and it's okay. You've just got to keep that frame of mind around your parenting I've got to find ways to work with my child rather than against them.
And that's, I guess, life, isn't it? If we were still doing everything that we were doing in our teens and our 20s, like, we'd be bored. Life moves on and things keep changing and evolving. So, okay, let's get back on to toddler behaviour. So we have identified that we've thought about whether or not they're hungry, angry, lonely or tired.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We've given them good amount of food. We're trying to, I'm just summarising what you've said. We're trying to think about the cause of the problem. What then? And it's still continuing.
Well, you've got the other one. So, yeah, angry. What's the root cause of that anger? What are you noticing? Again, getting curious, looking behind the loneliness is something that's really isolating for our children if they don't feel like they're having that one-to-one connection with you and really being heard and really being seen. You're going to have a myriad of issues unravel from there. And that's a really, I like to say, easy, fixable one. Do you know what I mean? If it's just a connection issue that's going on for you guys, literally by doing 10 minutes of undivided attention without your phone, without the TV, without any distractions around, playing something of your child's choice with them for at least just 10 minutes a day is going to probably resolve a lot of issues with the connection side of things. Because if we're waiting, and I know even for myself and my family and just the busyness of life, if I'm waiting to have my final bit of connection with them as part of their bedtime wind down, never goes well. Because that's the last minute that's the last, they haven't had me all day. They've been at school, at kindy. We've been busy walking through the door, getting all our jobs done, having dinner, just the run-of-the-mill stuff that we're all doing day in and day out. But if that's my last point of connection with my child, I'm never going to make a bedtime smooth sailing time because they're going to want to keep engaging. They just want that time with you. So Power of 10 is a really great tool, making times and also building in those rhythms and rituals and routines into your days and your weeks and your months so that your child has something to look forward to, something that's special between the two of you. It could be like a coffee date or a trip to Bunnings to get a sausage or it's just, make it fun, make it something unique to your family. But those are those core memories that your child is going to really cling on to and remember when they become adults as well. I don't know if you've got any of yourself, family traditions and rituals and all those kinds of things. And you go, oh God, I loved doing that when I was growing up. That really made me feel part of my family and really connected to my parents, Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
lovely.
Tired, obviously. Yeah, tired. That's an obvious one.
We don't need to talk about that one.
But even tired as in overstimulated as well. Some children are more easily overstimulated than others. Some children need more downtime than others, and I think we live in a day and age now where we try to put as much into our weeks as possible, but really it's about slowing down and providing that space for stillness and for calm and for boredom. Boredom's a really good thing for our kids to experience.
Yeah, and personal experience, I know, because again, my kids are that little bit older, and last year was crazy in terms of after school activities every single night. And I was like, that's enough, enough's enough. And I have cleared the schedule a bit more this year. And one particular daughter's behaviour has improved so much, and she's just, it used to stress her, and I could see it stressing her, rushing from place to place. And so
it's
definitely
amazing, isn't it? And some other kids will be they'll just totally thrive off that, and they'll need to be kind of the kid that moves one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and that's cool. It really comes down to just knowing your child and tuning in.
But that's also the tricky part, having multiple children, where one child might need more activities and the next child needs less, and then how do we manage that?
It's the balancing act.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to make it work for your family, and sometimes it's never things at the end of the day are never going to be perfect for everybody, but they learn their resilience, they learn their persistence, they learn all those really important skills by not having the world center around them all the time as well. So.
Yeah. Okay, there's lots to dissect here. There's lots to, digest, I think is the proper word. Okay, so let's say we've focused on all those things we've just been talking about. Could you give our listeners, let's say 3 or 4 apart from what we've just said, because there are already 3 or 4 tips you've given, but any, like in the heat of the moment, wanting like everything we've talked about is sort of preventative strategies, right? What about when we're in the heat of the moment, whether or not it's at home or in a public place and there's this challenging behaviour happening? Do you have any strategies or tips for parents listening?
Oh my God, so many. Yes. So the main thing, I suppose, like I'm way more for the proactive approach to parenting. So like preempting wherever you can, because that's always going to work in your favor and reduce so much of the crap. But we can't do it all of the time. It's not going to happen. So when you are in those really heated moments, I think the number one thing I would say is stop talking. Like as parents, we really, really suck at shutting our mouths and just being present with our kids as those emotions roll through them, okay? That is not the time when our children have completely flipped their lid, like their brain has completely shut off. They go blind with rage. They go deaf with rage. You know, they're not going to be taking in anything that you are saying because physically and biologically they can't. They just can't. So you need to just stop talking. Stop trying to fix it. It's not your job to fix the emotion. It's not your job to make your child happy 100% of the time. It's nothing like that's just setting yourself up for failure. And quite often when we're trying to come in and talk at our kids and try and get them to move through it and push those emotions like, you know, get over it. What have you got to be worried about? This is so not a big deal. You know, we're not validating their experience. And oftentimes it just increases and lengthens the escalation. So usually the best thing to do is to check your energy. Use this time of not talking to ground yourself and take your own deep breath. And oh my God, I know that it's easier said than done 100% of the time. Like I know this stuff, but when I'm stretched, I still fly off my handle. So like I'm not perfect and nobody is perfect. But if the majority of the time, or hell, even 30% of the time we can get it right, then our kids are good and we're good, okay? So just stop talking, ground yourself, take a deep breath. Then wait with them. And then as they start to calm, and this is kind of just, again, depends on the child, because sometimes you'll find that your child needs space from you while they're going through those emotions, or they actually need you as in physically, like to be cuddled and hugged and supported through those changes. Again, so it comes down to just knowing your child and what they need and listening to what they're saying, but also seeing behind those words too, because they can often miscue us, especially when they're a little bit unsure about how the situation's going to go. Do you know what I mean? If there's not been a lot of predictability around what is happening in that exchange, they can often miscue us and confuse us as parents, and then it just kind of the cycle continues. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. And just wait with them. And then when they're starting to calm, you've just got to validate that experience for them and just say, oh my gosh, I know, I can see that you're feeling really sad about X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it's really frustrating when X, Y, and Z happens. Do you know what I mean? And it's just helping them to make sense of that emotion. That's the main goal as a parent, because emotions are big and they're scary and they're overwhelming and they don't know what to do with them. So it's our job to label what the emotion is, or at least have a guess at it. It looks like you're feeling. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't want to tell our kids you're feeling happy when you can see they're clearly not happy. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to confuse them or anything, but we just want to validate that experience, make it make sense for them. Yeah, you know, blocks can be really tricky to stack up on top of on top of each other. It's really, really hard. Would you like Mummy to give you a hand? Or can I show you a different way of doing this? You know, and then that's where that problem solving and that connection can come in, giving them the tools in that moment once the storm has passed, so that next time they might access them and it might just calm it down a little bit.
This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months. Yes, that's 9 months.
They also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply.
And it's great hearing that. And I think we need to keep hearing that, because as you said, when you're in the heat of it and you're tired yourself, it's the end of the day. It's not always easy to be quiet.
No. Everyone's a great parent starting off the day. It's when the wheels come off in the evening for everybody. Yeah, that it all gets a bit real. And that's why I think that's why those proactive strategies, like thinking, okay, how can I actually make my afternoon and my evening easier on me and on my children?
Love
Slow
that.
it down. Yeah.
Can we discuss when toddlers, so having challenging behaviour with either other toddlers, like whether or not it's a little play date or a sibling, who do you go, like you mentioned sitting with them, validating their feelings or whatever it is. What do you do when there's two involved, and who do you go to first?
Okay, so I mean, you've got to know your child. If you know that your child is not coping well in social settings at this point, then be closer. Be ready to catch them before something happens, or in the instance where you didn't quite catch them because you're having a yabba, which is more than okay, or you're having a couple or anything. Just being there to be able to support that exchange. So another thing that I think our parents really struggle with is that they want their kids to share. Sharing is caring. Like, this was drilled into me as a child. It was drilled into my parents as a child. Share. Okay. Sharing is a really shitty concept. So you have to stop with worrying about the sharing and focus on turn taking. Okay, so, it's Bobby's turn to take, Bobby's taking a turn. When he's finished, he'll give it back to you. And you can use a timer, like a sand timer, or even your phone timer or whatever, and just put like a really short interval, like 1 or 2 minutes on it. And then timer goes off and go, Bobby, now it's Billy's turn to play with the car. And then you support that change and that transition between. And after a while, our kids start to see how this works. And then they go, okay, cool. It's not such a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Because if we relay it to ourselves as adults, I know there's a heck of a lot of stuff in my house I'm not willing to share. So why are we expecting our kids to do it? I want to share my husband. Like, I want to share my really lovely gin collection with just anybody. You know what I mean? So why do we expect our kids to do these things? So it's really just about coaching our kids through those things. Again, not forcing apologies. I'm personally not really big on that, but it's something that has filtered down through the generations, that you do something bad, you have to apologize straight away. Well, I know many adults who are incapable of doing that, and it just kind of reinforces a bit of resentment, especially between siblings. So even though I can still kind of find myself, say sorry to your sister, most of the time I can catch myself. But it's so ingrained in us to want an apology straight away and to want our kids to apologize. But our kids are going to learn how to apologize and use that with autonomy and actual empathy and actually mean it when they see us modeling that same behavior. So instead of asking your child to say sorry, you could say to the other child, like if your child has bitten somebody, which is horrible and we don't like it happening and it sucks, but you just go, I'm so sorry, Bobby. I'm really sorry that Billy did that. Billy is learning how to use his gentle hands or whatever, and then he's learning how to use his mouth. He's learning how to and then the conversation would be with little Bobby or whoever it is, your child, and you'd say, your teeth are full of food. If you're feeling frustrated, come and ask mummy for help.
Yeah.
It's rinse and repeat, basically.
Yeah.
And keep your language really simple as well. We like to do too much talking.
Yes. Great tips. I feel like I could keep asking for more. But I'm also, I think, as we said before, like, let's keep it simple. We've got some great strategies, preemptive strategies, and a few in the moment. I've got a couple more questions, but are there any more in the moment strategies you'd really like to share that you think are key?
You're allowed to remove your child from a situation, okay? If your child's not ready for something and you've tried something a few times, and I've got a great story of my son was 2 when we went and started our swimming lessons because he missed out being the whole world going crazy and swimming lessons weren't on. So he was 2 when he first got to experience swimming lessons. And it was a shit show. Like, it was an absolute shit show. He hated it. He didn't want to be there. We had little glimpses of him enjoying it and getting better, but the rest of the time was a nightmare. So we actually just ended up canning the lessons, and it was a very clear, he's not ready for this yet. Let's not force it. The meltdowns, the tantrums are not worth it at the swimming lesson for anybody. We've just recently gone back to swimming lessons, and I literally had tears in my eyes watching him. First time back in the water in a good year, without us, like family swim's different, but swimming lessons. And he was just so happy and so confident, and he listened to the teacher and he did everything that he was asked to do, and he was so engaged. And I literally had tears in my eyes, and I was like, this is what we were waiting for. We were waiting for him to be ready. So if you're busy and you're kind of going out and you're going to this playground and this party and and these things aren't working, and it's your child, I can hear him in the background, sorry guys. You can see that your child's actually not ready for these full-on things, or maybe even just not being there for as long as you'd like to be. Just be okay with leaving. It's okay to set a boundary. It's okay to, protect your child's dignity as well. Like, I'm massive on not just letting my child lose it in the middle of the street, not because I'm worried about what people will think about me, but because I want to protect his dignity. I don't want people walking past making comments that somehow create a story for him about who he is as a person. If someone walks past and goes, oh, he's being a bit naughty, isn't he? So for me, it's like you're allowed to remove your child from that situation, scoop them up, be the leader of your home, take them to the car, let the pass, and then decide what your next step is going to be. And I think a lot of the time as parents, we can sometimes feel a little bit scared of our kids, scared of the big behaviours, scared of the meltdowns, scared of the tantrums. But your child smells fear, right? Same as dogs. They'll smell fear. So you've got to be bigger, wiser, stronger, and kind all of the time, as much as possible. You're allowed to make a decision, an executive decision, to get out of there if it's not working for you.
And just to note to any pregnant mums who also have a toddler, I do remember this happened to me at the swimming pool as well. And I had the pram and the bags and the toddler. There's no way I was getting them into the pram. I had to scoop them up and take them back to the car. And I had to ask a random stranger to help me with the pram because I had my bags and they were very happy to help me. And they walked me to because I was quite heavily pregnant and all I could do was I could barely, So don't be afraid to ask for help with that too. And I remember the first time I asked for help, I was really embarrassed. And then I was like, you know what? I need help here. I can't do this by myself.
And every parent gets it. Like, really and truly, we get it. Like, we've all been there with our children at some stage or another, and we all feel like we want to be like swallowed up into a hole. Like, that's very, very normal. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be an ego thing. Like, your child it's not a reflection on you at all. Do you know what I mean? It's just a child being a child.
Yeah. Oh, you've given such amazing, I guess, thought-provoking tips. I'd like to just finish with the question, when should we consider seeking help? Or are there any red flags that there could be something more serious or, something that needs to be investigated, like, going on? Like, what stage should we seek help, professional help?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to like how you're feeling about your parenting. If it's not feeling good, then that's the sign that you're like, okay, cool. I maybe don't have the tools that I need in my toolbox. I need some tools. I need somebody to give me something that I can use and try and make some changes with. And yeah, I mean, like red flags and things like that. If you're thinking about, you're seeing signs of like other other things going on like ADHD or autism, or like the sooner that you get onto those things and get support around you, the better, because early intervention is absolutely key for children with additional needs. And the sooner that you can get the right team around them, the better. But if it's just more that like you feel like as a parent you've just not quite got enough tools, like literally living in the day of self-help and help, there is help everywhere. So much is available to us. You just have to find your person, Yeah.
And that's a perfect segue into how do people find you, Courtney?
Oh, yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Courtney.Nightingale. Otherwise, you can find me. I've got my website there, www.theparentingedit.co. And yeah, I'm always around. Jump into my DMs with a question. Feel free.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we could have kept chatting for hours, but we might have to have you on again sometime soon.
Yeah,
thanks so
sure.
much.
Thank you so much.
And before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Courtney at fitnessmama.com/podcast. And don't forget about the 7-day free trial. If you would like to come and join these convenient quality workouts that you can do from the comfort of your home, head to fitnessmama.com. That's it, ladies. Have a fabulous day, and I look forward to you joining me very soon for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.